Happy
Studio with Roy O'Connor, and he's on our board of directors, which is a group that oversees 5 campuses. Is that right?
That's right.
5 campuses.
Well, yes, actually, Green Spring Board of Directors, but we're part of the South Region,
right,
which has 5 campuses.
Right.
Yes.
So we're going to find out what's going on, and I think our first question is this big hot rumor that's going around about Erickson building a new community somewhere in the area. So Roy, tell us about that.
Well, you know, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, Erickson had a press release that, that they intended to purchase land on Braddock Road.
Right.
It's
We're
right
all trying to figure out where that is.
Right across from Memorial Gardens, if you know where that is on Braddock Road.
No, I don't.
It's not far. It's a little bit south of George Mason campus.
Oh, okay.
But it's about 8 or 9 miles from here, not that far away.
But how's that going to affect our population and that of Ashby Ponds?
Well, I think that to kind of step back from it a little bit, the population growth of people over the age of 75 in Fairfax County is growing exponentially.
Yes.
All the demographic projections are that if you take a look at the number that are here now versus, say, 2035, which is not that far away, 18
no, it
years,
isn't.
they're talking about doubling the population. So therefore, there's going to be a lot more people in the age bracket that would be interested.
But there's so many
in CCRC.
Assisted living places around now.
Well, they are growing also. I mean, they're growing too because they all recognize the size of the market. So even if you get a small percentage of it,
yeah.
Okay, there's still a lot there.
Okay.
I think it's going to be very interesting because, you know, first of all, we're in a very, very good location here in Springfield. I recently talked to a resident businessman here, and he was telling me about selecting Springfield. Oh,
just a minute. We have the number on the screen. This is a call-in show, so if you have a question, call 703-663-3333, and Roy will try to answer it for you. But, okay, now.
But anyway, back to that. What he did is he was trying to find a good location to grow his business. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And he hired an outside consultant. They chose Springfield, Walker Lane. Okay.
Really?
Across from Nova. This is back in the 1990s, and his business grew tremendously. And they chose it because, you know, you had the Metro right there.
Right.
You had the Springfield Mall, the old Springfield Mall, which was really, you know, a leading mall in its time.
It is now.
Since then, we knew it went down. Now it's come back up.
It's come back
and rebuilt. You have Fort Belvoir just right here for anybody in the military. You have a new hospital there, a new PX. You just have a long list of things that are very positive.
Right.
Look at the number of churches within 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes.
I mean, almost every denomination. So there's lots of positives, whereas when you think about Braddock Road, there's no metro right there. I guess you'd have to have a public bus goes up and down Braddock Road.
Right.
You do have the university. But again, I think the overall growth is expected to be very, very large. And Erickson has a market research department. It's done a lot of studies. Okay, so they go at this very professionally. They're not choosing it. The other thing is, it's a 78-acre property. It's very hard to find a piece of property that large.
Now, how many acres do we have here?
We have 58 here.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it's a much larger plot.
And it's not going to be quite as large. They're talking about 1,100 independent units and 150 in their continuing care. So it'll be smaller than us. I think it'll be a little higher price point because there'll be more larger apartments than here.
Okay.
You know, that's been one of our things we've been living with for a while. So again, I think as long as we keep our place up, keep it looking good, which we tend to do, I think we'll be fine.
Have they named it yet?
No, it's just called the Braddock Road property.
Okay.
But last night I happened to attend the public hearing that Supervisor Cook, who's a supervisor for the Braddock District, held at the Robinson High School. I think there were maybe 25 other Green Spring residents that went, but there were hundreds of local Braddock District residents. It was really a good meeting. It lasted a little over, well, I think it went from 7:30 to a little after 9 last night. But Erickson made a presentation. Scott Sawicki, who's our public relations man from Baltimore, did a very nice job presenting what they plan to do there. You know, that was formerly the Northern Virginia Training Center, and it was a training center for those with intellectual disabilities.
Right.
It operated for many years. The property is actually owned by the state of Virginia. So if Erickson buys it, they're buying it from the state. However, you have to meet the zoning laws and the comprehensive plan of Fairfax County.
Right.
So you're dealing with state and with county.
Okay.
There was a gentleman there representing the state. He stood up and said that the state is very anxious to sell the property because they want to take the proceeds from the sale of that to use for the people who were moved out of the institution and are now in individual homes to continue to finance the building of those homes. So the state is very anxious to sell. Erickson is very anxious to buy. As a matter of fact, they're going to move quite quickly on it. Within 30 days, they actually plan to exercise.
Did there seem to be any reluctance on the part of the local residents?
I think the major concern to come out in the questions and answers after the presentation is about traffic.
Oh, okay.
You know, they're concerned about there's a lot of traffic on Braddock Road now, particularly in the morning and evening, you know, commuting hours, and how will people be able to get in and out? There was one light moment in the presentation. The manager of Memorial Gardens, which is right across the street, said that he stood up and said, well, first of all, I'd like to say, we're very much in favor of this being built on Braddock Road, you know. So, I mean, everybody got it, you know, it was really
convenient.
It kind of lightened things, you know, because you get these big meetings and each person has kind of their own opinions, you know, but again, he's almost directly opposite, so therefore he was concerned. Now they plan to have 3 entrances, not like us, we only have the one major one, and we have an emergency one, you know. But they plan to have 3, and one of them is going to be right on the intersection where there's a traffic light now. So, by the way, Erickson brought along a traffic engineer who spoke, and they also had a civil engineer who spoke about the improvements to the property. There's been a lot of stormwater problems there that they're going to correct, okay? And those occurred because they didn't have the rules and regulations they have now about what you need to do with stormwater runoff. So it was a good meeting. I think a lot of people stood up and, you know, again, it came back to the traffic. I think there was one concern, will you have some low-income housing as part of this?
Yes.
And you know, actually, our range is from a small efficiency unit all the way up to, you know, very large units. So it'll be the same approach, I think, on that. One thing that they did offer is there's a parcel of the land that Erickson is offering to the county for whatever use they want to make of it. A park, recreation center. So there were a number of people stood up and put in their bids for what they'd like, you know. There was even one lady representing lifelong learning at George Mason said they'd like to have a nice facility there. So I think it was fairly positive, but this is the beginning of a very long process.
Right, I can imagine.
Supervisor Cook laid that out. I mean, it's going to be years before you even get through. You have to get approval for the change to the comprehensive plan, and then it has to be rezoned from the current zoning to allow this. So the next step, I think, will be that Supervisor Cook will take it to the Board of Supervisors and make a motion that this be approved, which then means it'll go to a land use committee who will go through and do a needs study to see what does that particular part of Fairfax County really need. Do they need more retail? Do they need this? Do they need that? So there's a lot of work that will be done along the way. There'll be more public meetings. Supervisor Cook is asking for the residents to form a committee to assist him in getting the input to him. He said that he's basically not for it or against it, but he wants to make sure that the community is heard. So that's where it's really at. Yeah, it was very interesting. I think Erickson did a very nice job in presenting what they want to do.
I know one year when my husband and I were visiting in Florida, the university that we were near, and I don't even remember which one it was, had a very active program with the senior community. In fact, I think there was senior housing on the campus, and it was very much interactive between the students and the seniors. So maybe George Mason would, you know, with their life learning program.
Yeah, when you read about that, I mean, there's a lot of seniors around the country attracted to college towns and being to take advantage of the cultural events and things that happen. So that is a strong draw, I think.
Well, no one has called in, and we have 2 minutes left. So if you want to ask Roy a question, 703-663-3333. Okay. So in the meantime, let's go on, and there was a question about that comes up periodically. Who owns Green Spring?
Yes, you know, that even came up at the meeting last night. Actually, you know, there's Green Spring Village Incorporated is a not-for-profit corporation, and all the buildings, grounds, and equipment are the assets of that corporation.
Okay.
That occurred back over 10 years ago when everything was purchased. So it's not, there are no shareholders, okay? The board of directors do not have any shares. It's the corporation that owns all of the assets. And as a not-for-profit, any extra surplus funds that we take in each year based on our fees minus our expenses goes to the corporation.
Now, who's head of that corporation?
The head of the corporation, we have a board of directors. They're the stewards over the corporation. Jim Anders is the chairman of that board of directors. Anybody can look out on the bulletin board. There's 9 members on the board, okay? I happen to be a resident who lives in the community. I'm a director like all the rest of the directors on that board. And as a matter of fact, we meet just in a couple of weeks. We'll do our quarterly meeting. But we're charged with overseeing, ensuring the fiduciary responsibilities are carried out, the long-term planning, the financing, compliance with rules and regulations set not only by the state but by the federal government. So we, as you know, we have hired the Erickson Company, the one we've been talking about a lot this morning, to manage our property.
Right.
So initially, Erickson owned Green Spring, and then what they did is they sold it to this not-for-profit corporation. So, yes, that's where it is. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Roy. Okay. I think maybe we've enlightened a few people. If you have some questions for Roy, give him a call and or talk to him in the hallway. He's very open to answering any of your questions about the organization of Green Spring and how we're responsible to and for some of the Erickson things. And it's a very interesting chain of command here that maybe we need to know more about. So check with Roy if you have some questions. And let's stop now for a little bit of a promotion on our staff appreciation.